Looks like Space Force has unveiled a new kind of thruster, but also an old one. U.S. Space Force unleashes powerful thrusters for moon mission. U.S. Space Force takes a bold leap in lunar exploration with a successful test of new thrusters. What role will these play in monitoring the moon? In March 2025, the U.S. Space Force, in collaboration with the United States Air Force Research Laboratory, successfully conducted tests of the propulsion system for the Oracle M spacecraft. This milestone, reported by Space.com, marks a significant step in U.S. Space Force's mission to monitor the vast and strategic Cislunar Space. And a lot of people wondering right now, what is Cislunar Space? Cislunar Space is the space between the Earth and the Moon plus 61,500 kilometers to point L2. Every point between that and the surface of the Earth is cislunar space. So that's what we're talking about. This is geosynchronary orbit, heliosynchronary orbit, low Earth orbit. Just so you understand what we're talking about here. Let's go back to that. With new Hall effect thrusters, the Oracle M spacecraft is designed to track objects in cislunar space, enhancing space situational awareness and providing critical surveillance capabilities for the national security beyond Earth's orbit. The rise of cislunar space. As commercial and governmental missions to the moon increase, the U.S. Space Force has set its sights on securing the vast and relatively unexplored expanse of cislunar space. This region, which includes areas around the moon and lunar orbit, is becoming an increasingly valuable asset, both for future space exploration and national security. As I've been saying ever since the beginning of this channel and long before that, IRL, the new high ground is cislunar space. It is cislunar space. He who controls the high ground controls the battlefield. If you control cislunar space, you control geosync. You control geosync, you control low Earth, you control low Earth, you control airspace. You control airspace. You can better project your will on the ground. And it's coming now from lunar orbit. And this aircraft, using a Hall effect thruster, just kind of skip a little bit here. The spacecraft will use advanced Hall effect thrusters, which ionize xenon gas to create plasma and generate propulsion. I've been familiar with ion propulsions now for quite a while. Ever since Deep Space One, the experimental space satellite launched in October of 1998, which first tested a deep space long-running ion engine. An ion engine, first, just to let you know what this spacecraft did achieve. It achieved a speed of 35,000 miles an hour. Now, I recognize in space that's not exactly going at light speed, but I want to give you an example. This is just a regular sheet of paper. The thrust of Deep Space One was the equivalent of the weight of this piece of paper in my hand. That's all it was. That was the thrust. But it was a continuous thrust in a zero-G environment. So you can see the benefits of something like that on a long-term mission. And this is what Google's AI came up with for a definition. A Hall effect thruster is a type of ion thruster used for spacecraft propulsion and uses an electric field to accelerate propellant, typically xenon gas, to produce thrust. Unlike chemical rockets, HETs offer much higher exhaust velocities and efficiency, allowing spacecraft to travel faster and further with less propellant. So clearly the advantage of something like that is obvious. You want to have something like that. And for the Space Force to be able to get into cislunar orbit and into lunar orbit more cost effectively is definitely something we need to do. And we need to push that forward because China and Russia are both making huge strides in the area of space. I did a video on this channel a while back, not that long ago, about U.S. satellite buzzes Chinese military satellites. And this goes into a story that I had done previously to that, which is China demonstrates satellite dogfighting, Space Force General said. Let's get to the story. A service spokesman later elaborated on Gluten's comments, saying the operation occurred in 2024 and involved 3 Sheung 24C, I know I butchered it, I apologize, experimental satellites and 2 other Chinese experimental satellites. The Shenzhen 6 systems, again I apologize, systems are believed to have a signals intelligence mission. The exercise showcased the country's ability to perform complex maneuvers in orbit referred to as rendezvous and proximity operations, which involve not only navigation around objects but also inspecting them. The general listed the satellite's dogfighting demonstration alongside several other concerning activities from near peer, now peer. We have to stop. We have to drop the near peer. We have to drop that. China is a peer. It is a peer-to-peer. Several other concerning activities from peer-to-peer U.S. adversaries that include Russia's 2019 demonstration of a nesting doll capability where one satellite released a smaller satellite and then performed several stalking maneuvers near a U.S. satellite. So you have one launching another, floating around, and inspecting. And then you have another one performing critical maneuvers. Well, the United States is perfectly capable of doing that as well. This is a story from just a few weeks ago. This was, let's see, where's the date? Give me a date here. May 2nd, 2025. This is out of Newsweek. The American satellite was tracked moving 2 close passes to China's TJS-16 and TJS-17 satellites on April 26, 29, and with a distance of 10.5 miles and 7.4 miles respectively. It was not immediately clear why the U.S. Space Force's satellites maneuvered around the targets. USA 324, which launched in January 2022, and other GSSAP satellites can track and observe objects in geosynchronous orbit more than 22,000 miles from the equator. So, in this article, it says it's not clear why those objects, why we did that. I think it's perfectly clear why we did that. I think it's absolutely perfectly clear why we did that. And this is what it looked like. This is the tracking data put into graphic. USA 324 enters. You can also see the sunrise, sunset cycles behind this. It'll give you a time frame. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Now, you're not going to be doing these kind of maneuvers with the ion propulsion system proposed in this new satellite, but you are going to be able to have the observation of this from cislunar orbit. Again, the high ground. He who controls the high ground controls the battlefield. It's been all that way through history. And although, like I said, we're not doing what 324 here did with these maneuvers, that's using liquid propellants, things such as that. But you can definitely sit out at cislunar orbit and observe this. You could have spotted those satellites from China long before they started their dogfighting maneuvers, and you could have observed the entire thing from there. It's my contention we did actually observe it from orbit. He says here, the general, that it was our commercial assets, we observed it. Because if we observed it with our commercial assets, we also observed it with this. The XB-37B returned to Earth. This was on March 7th. And as you can see, it was in orbit. December 28th, 2023. Well, these took place in 2024. This returned in 2025. So we already have remarkable assets out there able to observe and do things like that. But an ion propulsion system enabling long-duration, long-term cislunar and lunar orbital missions, exploration for reconnaissance, general exploration, and future weapons use. Let's not kid ourselves. This is breakthrough. This is breakthrough. What's happening with Space Force is something that we all need to really pay attention to. I continually say it is going to be the preeminent armed force the United States has. I am going to continue to say that. I believe it's the truth. He who controls the high ground controls the battlefield. Space Force is going to be specifically tasked with that high ground. They will become the preeminent armed force. This is just one of the means they're going to use to do it. If you liked the video, hit the like. Hopefully you'll subscribe, share it with a friend, let them know. The U.S. is pushing out new and better methods for space travel, and that's just what we know about. Thanks.